Michael Ende, who wrote this, he wrote that he came to the conclusion that our cultural problems cannot be solved unless the monetary question gets solved at the same time or even before. And this is Michael Ende, who wrote this book that was previously mentioned, Momo. And he, in that letter, particularly mentioned the link to the monetary system of that book. And actually my observations from nature and being an environmentalist by heart and training led me to the very same thing. I had that questions of why is it that we destroy the ecosystem? Why is it that we continue with an agriculture that destroys the soil? Although we know, I think the UN says like 60 years of continuing like this and there will be no fertile soil left. Why is it actually that financial markets, that we allow financial markets to continue financing in a business as usual of 4 to 6 degrees global warming pathway, where everyone agreed that we would like to stay below this 2 degrees pathway of global warming? Why is that happening? And during all these years that I've been working with the financial system and these questions of the environment, I witnessed in many conferences and reports that I was even part of, for example, the UNEP inquiry into the financial system, and most recently when Mr. Steglitz was last month together with Graham Greene from the Club of Rome at the University of Zurich, that there seems to be a growing consensus that there are 3 causes of why there is that huge gap between where the money flows today and some kind of a life-sustaining economy that we are looking for. And those 3 things seem to be instability, short-termism, and return or growth expectations. So apparently we have like a consensus of the fact that we are living in a system that does not work anymore. But I'm not sure if we are all clear about whether we look at the symptoms of that situation or at the causes. So I was wondering over many years, why is it that exactly then people stopped asking why is it that we live in a system that forces us to grow, that forces us to speed up, and that results into some kind of an instability. And I was wondering, why is it that, especially in these debates, the question about the monetary system and the question how is that linked, or how is the need to grow and the need to speed up and instability built into that system? Why is it that we are not actually mentioning that question? And I'm very glad that most recently, and also with the Swiss initiative, this question is being raised publicly. My answer and my personal observation was that this is because it hurts. And so the observation is that I call it somehow the money wound. In the environment out there, we see that the way we've organized the system today leads, so the way we've organized the debt-based monetary system that forces us to grow in all these things, that leads us into some kind of a environmental destruction and climate change. But also within our society and among us, actually, it leads to a changing climate. It gets colder. Today's money system is actually led by and leads to hierarchy, the concentration of power, and competition. And I just read that John Maynard Keynes, and perhaps you need to help me a bit with the translation here, he talks about a game in German, it's called the Reise nach Jerusalem. And I don't know if anyone just knows the name. Basically, it's a children's game where when the music stops, you need to find the next chair, and it's usually 1 chair less than needed. Thank you very much. So, and people start running to, and we don't run for chairs, we run for resources, we run for staying into the games, not falling out of the game, we run for our existence. And this separates us from each other. And it creates fear. It creates fear, depression, and sometimes it forces us to do things that we don't really feel are the right things to do. It forces us to be with people that we feel it's not the right thing to do at this time. And realizing that, well, in short, or in a nutshell, it makes out of us the grey man, that's the graue Herren, as Michael Ende puts it. And to realize that hurts. So far, as David Bossart in the beginning mentioned, we leave this important question of money to the techie people, I think. He mentioned the tech people. I would say perhaps we could also say the graue Herren, the grey man here. So we leave it to them. And to avoid, I would say, that we become the machines that we are basically creating. That was a quote that touched me quite when I don't remember whom he quoted, but in the morning today it touched me. Who was that? Marshall McLuhan, yeah. So to avoid that we get the machines that we created, actually, that Swiss Vollgeld initiative, to me, seems to be a very first step and an important step to claim back responsibility over or for the money system. And to do that within a direct democracy, so to claim it back by the people in a vote. And this is, to me, like a first step, an important step to co-create a pathway. I think there was a huge agreement that the system is not working. That was the last sentence, I think, from Martin Wolf this early on. I heard even saying, I don't know if it was him saying, it stinks, the current system. So basically, to co-create a pathway out of this system that does not work anymore. It would lead us, it would ensure that banks that we avoid and reduce this spiraling negative effects that the current system has, and ensure that banks have this intermediate or intermediation role, and it would connect us, that money would connect us to each other. I think that was about that role, that was what Larry Kotnikov was talking about this morning, this intermediate role of bank. So basically, I also heard, and I would say that this Vollgeld initiative would be one first step that would lead us to go to some kind of a financial system that is like a public good, you mentioned, and that would have the intention to go towards a life-sustaining society rather than a destructive one. And with that, I go back to listening, and my last words I would like to give to Michael Ende again.
So wie die Dinge jetzt liegen, haben wir eigentlich nur die Wahl zwischen einer ökonomischen Katastrophe und einer ökologischen Katastrophe. Und da die ökologische Katastrophe noch etwas auf sich warten lässt und man immer noch nicht genau weiß, wann sie eintreten wird, macht man halt zunächst mal die Augen zu und tut so, als sei nichts und macht erst mal immer so weiter. Aber das wird natürlich so nicht gehen. Und ich meine eben, was unbedingt notwendig ist, das ist, dass sich die führenden Wirtschaftsleute der großen Industrienationen mal an einen runden Tisch setzen und überlegen, woran liegt eigentlich dieser Zwang zum Wachstum in unserer Wirtschaft? Woher kommt dieser Zwang?